program. Aidan will chat with you, actually Claire, I think, will chat with you a little bit later on about co-op and careers. Oops. So kinesiology. What is kinesiology? Why is it different from our other majors? All three of our degrees lead to a Bachelor of Science. Kinesiology is whole body. It's related to health and movement, exercise, nutrition, rehab, occupational ergonomics, health behavior, and promotion. Our biomedical physiology degree is a little bit more cellular, it's a little bit more molecular. And our behavioral neuroscience, which is the degree that you are interested in, is half BPK and half psychology. All three of our majors are excellent preparation for professional schools. A lot of students who are interested in medicine, dentistry, optometry, pharmacy will do the biomedical physiology degree. The students that are more interested in rehabilitation, doing a master's of physical therapy or a master's of occupational therapy, will do our kinesiology major with the active health and rehab concentration. So students that are interested in BNU, they too can do professional schools. Students who are interested in PT and OT but want to work with special populations, patients with neurological disorders, this is a great degree. You can do advanced degrees in neuroscience, and you can do this in preparation for clinical psychology. I'm going to hand it over to Aidan, who will talk to you a little bit about the internal transfer into behavioral neuroscience. So I have gone through the three different majors very, very quickly. This information is all available on our website, and I really want to spend more time focusing a little bit on BNU. So over to Aidan.
Thank you, Sophie. So hi, everyone. Great to see so many of you here joining us. And just a little background on myself. So my name is Aidan Wicke. I'm the Student Success Coordinator in the Faculty of Science. I was actually filling in for Sophie last year as the BPK advisor, and myself, I did the kin degree. So I'm an alumnus of the program and very familiar. So I just want to talk really briefly about, because everyone here is intended for behavioral neuroscience. So what that means is that you still need to become declared into the program. Behavioral neuroscience is different than kinesiology and biomedical physiology in that it is a competitive entry using courses that you've taken in post-secondary. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to a process which is called internal transfer. So in the chat, I've actually put the link to our page on our website that explains this whole thing. And I'm actually going to go through it very briefly right now, just to give you a sense of what it is. So Claire, if you don't mind, if I can share my screen and just let me know if everyone can see the internal transfer page.
Looks great.
Perfect. Okay. So very briefly to go through this, we're going to scroll down. There's actually a stepwise process here of how internal transfer works. The first step is just understanding the three programs. Of course, you're all here as interested in behavioral neuroscience. So that's the program we're going to look at. And the next step is to read through the approval form. So I'm going to click on that link, the approval form. This takes us to our BPK forms page, which we'll refer to later. And specifically, we want to click on behavioral neuroscience. And you want to click on the approval form. Okay, so the first two pages of this have some general information, and I'll leave that for you to read on your own time. What I'd really like to focus on here is this last page, the third page. And you can see here that there are two sets of courses. There's set 1 and set 2. Okay, so when I mentioned this program is competitive entry, it just means that you do have to take courses from this set of courses and get a minimum GPA. Okay, so the GPA that you're looking for set 1 is 3.0. Okay, so 3.0 is a B average, right, in all those courses. If you don't get in based on set 1, there is another option. You can get in based on set 2 plus all of set 1 courses, okay? Set 2, you'd have to do a minimum of 4 of the courses in set 2, and the GPA actually decreases a bit down to 2.7, okay? Because these are, set 2 does have more advanced courses. Some of these are, most of these are second year courses. So that's the very broad overview of internal transfer. I don't want to spend too much time on that because it's not extremely important to you as a brand new student, but it is important for you to know about it, okay? So again, this is all on our BPK forms page. So the next thing I'd like to talk to you about is basically an overview of the program. So kind of understanding what is your degree, what does it mean to have a major, to major in behavioral neuroscience. And I'm actually going to, again, refer to the forms page. Is the forms page still showing, Claire?
For a moment, it was minimized to the PowerPoint, but we are now back at the forms page.
Okay,
just for a moment.
Okay, so just to understand what your degree looks like, it's 120 units, at least 120 units to get a degree. So 120 units is roughly equivalent to 40 courses. Most courses at SFU are 3 units each. Okay, I'm going to click on, still within behavioral neuroscience, but I'm going to click on the program planner. And this is a very useful form for you to see what your degree will look like. Okay, so this is a 2-page fillable PDF. We highly recommend you use this as you're going throughout your degree. You can actually just keep the same document and keep adding to it as you complete courses. This is a fillable PDF, so feel free to save it on your computer. Basically, page 1 has all of your lower degree course requirements. So lower division rather. Lower division refers to 100 or 200 level courses. The second page has your upper division requirements. So those are all the 300 and 400 level courses. We'll look at page 1 first. So as you can see here in the left-hand column, there is a mix of BPK courses as well as psych courses. So as you know, the behavioral neuroscience program is half BPK, half psych courses. And that's reflected here. You can also see that there are some first year science courses. So this is typical for most science students, especially life science students. You'll be taking your math, physics, chemistry, biology in first year. And so those are all reflected here. We'll now move to the right-hand column, and you can see there's something called electives. So elective courses are those courses which you can do and choose on your own from any of the courses that are offered at SFU. So they don't have to be BPK courses or even science courses. In fact, SFU requires students to have breadth courses. So you might have heard that term if you've done Uni Prep 2 already. Breadth courses refer to courses in other fields of study. So for the behavioral neuroscience degree, you can see here that you need 6 units of breadth humanities. So that's what HUM stands for, is humanities courses. And Nicole can put a link in the chat where you can find a list of all the courses offered at SFU that fulfill the breadth humanities requirement. 6 units is 2 courses if you get 2 3-unit courses. And then additionally, you can have some free electives. That's why there's open spaces here. Those are courses that can come from anywhere in the university. If you're transferring in from a other post-secondary institution, those could be courses from your college. We've had some students with AP courses, for example, that didn't fit in any of the requirements. Those could be electives as well. Okay. Now, skipping over to the second page, we can see what 3rd and 4th year courses are required for your degree. I'm not going to focus too much on this because it's not something you need to worry about too much in your first term, but just so that you know, this is what your later courses will look like. As you can see, if you start reading some of the course titles, they're very much more specific and specialized as you get to your upper division courses. The other thing I want to mention is there is an opportunity to do an honors in the behavioral neuroscience major. An honors essentially means you're doing a couple more courses. Students who are doing an honors are doing a research project, so they typically have a thesis proposal, so some sort of question that they're trying to answer, and you would work with a prof, so perhaps someone that you've met in your classes, and this is typically something you'll learn more about as you've done more BPK courses and start to understand specifically what your areas of interest are. There is a approval process to do the honors program, and this is something that you can speak to Sophie about after you've been at SFU for a couple of years and kind of have an idea of what you might want to research. So that is our program planner. I'm going to go back to this page, and it's our next slide here. Minors in general science. Okay, so there is an opportunity to do a minor as a student at SFU. We've been talking, the program planner that I showed you is for a major. Some students will choose to minor in a subject that's totally outside of your primary field of study. So we've had some really interesting combinations in the past. I've had students who have done business minors or computer science minors along with their major in behavioral neuroscience or one of the other BPK programs. If you're interested in doing a minor, do reach out to the advisor for the departments that house that minor. There sometimes will be a competitive entry program. Sometimes it's just as simple as informing the advisor that you want to do the minor. There will be requirements, of course, to do the minor. There will be less courses to do than a major, though. Another option that science students have, and Nicole can also post this in the chat, is the general science double minor. That allows a student to do 2 minors, but still get a bachelor's degree at the end of it. It may be less interesting for students here because behavioral neuroscience does not have a minor. It's more applicable to students who are doing kinesiology or biomedical physiology because those 2 programs do have minors.
Would you like me to bring the presentation back up?
Okay, so I think I can stop sharing and I'm going to pass it on back to Sophie.
Okay, I'll get the screen back up for you, Sophie. There we go, Sophie, all yours.
Sorry about that, everyone. So a number of you will have questions about how many courses should I enroll in my first term? So this is what I'm going to go through with you right now, is just how many courses to take. Don't underestimate the courses. It is a big, huge transition from high school to university. Lots of you are coming in with grades in the 80s and 90s, but you know, everyone is here with really good grades, and you want to have a good first term. Sorry, it keeps switching my view here. So we are a tri-semester university. That means that you can attend fall, spring, summer. So when I say don't underestimate the courses, my recommendation is normally that students take, give or take, 12 units. So if you are in, it's flipped back again, sorry. I wonder why it's doing that. If you are in 12 units, if you're thinking about total hours of work per week, that is about the equivalent of 36 hours of work per week. just to keep up with your notes, to keep up with the readings, to try to review things. So remember, 12 units is about 36 hours per week. So if I say, if you do 12 units in the fall and 12 units in the spring term, you can pick up a couple of courses in the summer because we are a tri-semester university. So there is a link to resources here. Aidan went through that with you. He showed you the program planner. The one thing that he didn't show you there is same place. There's a suggested first year document. It's a fantastic document. It's kind of text heavy. And so Nicole is giving you a link there. It is a text heavy document, but what it does is it basically gives you a sample of your first and second year courses. So it has sample term 1, 2, 3. You do have flexibility. So you don't have to follow it exactly, but it does give you a good sense of what to register for, especially in your first term. If you've put together a plan for yourself and you want me to confirm that it looks fine, or you've got some questions, you can email the BPK advisor at sfu.ca email address. But please have a plan. Don't send me an email and just say, please help. All of you will have slightly different backgrounds. Some of you might have IB or AP transfer credits. So if you've received credits through IB for BioScience 101, then it's up to you if you take the credit for that. If you decide that you want to take the credit, then you don't need to do BioScience 101 in your first or second term. You've already taken it. So hopefully I've covered that. Do you think it would be useful to get you to share that, Claire, that screen?
So you'd like me to pull up the recommended first year courses screen?
Yes, please. If it's not too much trouble.
Yep, I can do that. Just give me one moment. And sorry, which one did you want pulled up?
It's the suggested first year enrollment. So down a couple, yeah. Thank you so much.
No trouble.
So the first page has a lot of very useful resources. There's BPK peer mentoring. There is peer tutoring for first year sciences. There's the student learning commons, health and counseling. So all great resources there, but this is the part that I wanted to show you here for B. So use this document when you're trying to put your schedule together for your first term. So in this particular example, so sample for term 1, this student has chosen to do BPK 142. Now it says Chem 121. It is normally Chem 121. Chem 121 has been split into Chem 120 and Chem 125. Because of COVID. So if you're looking for Chem 121, and a lot of students have been, you need Chem 120 and Chem 125. So this student would be doing BPK 142, Chem 120, Chem 125, Physics 100, because they may not have done, they haven't done Physics 12, and Psych 100 or Psych 102. That would put this student in 13 units. Now you may decide that that is a heavy term for your first term. One way to be in 12 units, you could leave the Chem 125 lab till your second term. Okay, you can use, now sometimes students like to swap BPK 142 and BioScience 101. So you could do BioScience 101 in your first term and BPK 142 in your second term. So what I'm trying to say to you is you do have some flexibility. Okay, so I think if we go back to our presentation, this will cover some of our next slides, but
Would you like me to go ahead and go to the next slide?
yeah, sure. So this is what we were, yeah, so be prepared. you will need to, once you are admitted into behavioral neuroscience, once you've gone through the internal transfer process and you've been approved into behavioral neuroscience, there is a continuance GPA. Now, actually, this slide should have been updated. The continuance GPA for behavioral neuroscience is in effect between 24 and 90 units, so that is accurate. We will not be using your science GPA. Because you're in behavioral neuroscience, we will be using your cumulative GPA. And that is so that we can be using your grades in the science courses and in your psychology courses. We do have GPA calculators available on our website, and there is one specifically for behavioral neuroscience. So sorry, we're giving this presentation to so many groups of students, and this is saying your science GPA, but as I said, for behavioral neuroscience students, it will be your CGPA. I do want you to be aware also of the university limit on repeats. This is not BPK or BNU specific. This is a university rule. You are only allowed to repeat a total of 5 courses. You can only repeat a particular course once. So what's important here is if you've received IB credit or AP credit, you can choose to accept that credit, as I mentioned, or you can choose to repeat the course at SFU. If you choose to repeat a course at SFU, it will show as a course repeat. Only in this particular instance, you can contact student services through urecords at sfu.ca and ask them to take the IB or the AP transfer credit off your record so it doesn't appear as a repeat. Next slide, please. So over to Aidan.
Hey, thanks, Sophie. So as Sophie mentioned, it is a big jump coming to SFU, coming to university. So we want to remind you that you're not alone. Of course, we are a team here that's here to support you. You also have support from your fellow students. So BPK actually has a very active and successful peer mentorship program. Basically, the program works in that all first-year students or new students can get connected with a senior BPK student. So you'll have someone who you can meet with or correspond with. They can give you some great advice in terms of interesting courses, study strategies, but also just kind of learning about the social life and what are the activities going on campus, or the ways that BPK students are able to connect with each other. There is, so that's open to any student who, including yourselves, who are intended in getting into behavioral neuroscience. And if you could just click to the next slide, Claire. There's a link here to the, which Nicole has put into the chat. I'm also going to put another link in the chat to this SFU Science student life page. This page actually it's a great kind of one-stop shop for all the other engagement opportunities related to student life. So this includes student unions. There's a BPK student union. Every department in SFU Science has its own student union. As well, there is a science undergraduate student union. And I mentioned peer mentorship for BPK. There's actually another peer mentorship program, which is a science peer mentorship program. And you're welcome to join that one in addition to the BPK program. In that one, you would be paired up with a senior science student. So it could be a science student from a different department, which may be interesting for students who have an interest in other sciences and may even be considering taking more science courses in other departments. So we really encourage you to get involved. The Science Undergraduate Society is very active. I know they're known for their frosh and various activities. So that's a great kind of starting point for being at SFU. We really want to encourage reaching out and accessing community, which is there, but it's sometimes not as visible until you start meeting people. So I think I'll pass it on to Claire now.
Great, thank you, Aidan. So I'd like to take a moment just to chat about co-op, cooperative education, and career preparedness. So for anyone who might not be familiar, co-op is paid work experience in a field related to what you're studying. Here at SFU, we have co-op available in every single program, and that of course includes behavioral neuroscience. All co-op positions are paid. We don't do any unpaid internships through co-op, and students can work for co-op terms that are 4 months long, 8 months long, or even occasionally year-long co-op placements. While the money is great and everything, by far the most valuable part of co-op is the connections that students make in their field or in their industry. So if you have a sense of what kind of career you might want to go into, co-op is great because you can start to make connections. But on the flip side, if you have no idea what kind of career you might want to do, co-op is also great because it helps to expose you to a lot of different options. I already mentioned all of our co-op is paid. You can't start working in your first year, but you can start joining the co-op program in your first year so that by the time your second year comes around, you're ready to start working. I will leave it there, pass it along to our next slide.
So one thing you might be thinking about is what will you do after your degree, or even during your degree, but kind of further on in your studies. So we do like to, this is definitely a topic that we can talk about in appointments, and I'm happy to talk about this, especially as an alumnus of the program. I also did 5 co-ops, so as Claire mentioned, it's very valuable, and I paid for a lot of my school through co-op, and actually my first job was through my last co-op employer. Just to get a feel for the room, I'd like to just ask if you could put into the chat, what are some career ideas that you're thinking about for after your degree, after your behavioral neuroscience degree or science degree in general? Do people have some thoughts about what they might want to do? So a couple med, counseling, great. So with the BPK programs, because we have, there's a lot of courses that focus on obviously the human body, its body movement, health. A lot of the healthcare professions are very popular. Behavioral neuroscience in particular offers a lot of other options because of the mix of psychology courses as well. So counseling is one. I've heard of addictions counseling, mental health work, working with people with disabilities. Those are all really great options. So something we do recommend is taking your time at SFU as well to explore what are some of the different ways that you can use your degree, right? And oftentimes I think science students come in with very specific ideas and are quite surprised as they take more courses, what else is out there. As you're getting into more of your upper division, 3rd and 4th year courses, those courses start to become more specialized, and you'll see different avenues of research. Someone mentioned grad school. So if you're interested in grad school, obviously research would be a big component and a big interest for you. In any of these events, whether you're going to professional school or grad school, you will want to think about your applications to those. Those are all competitive entry. And most schools nowadays, they don't just look at grades and courses, they want experience as well. So co-op is just one avenue for experience. Of course, you can volunteer in labs, work in labs. There are research grants that are available to undergraduate students. So you don't need to be a grad student to do research. These are all discussions that we can have, though. I'd love to chat with students who are interested in research, and we can connect you to some of those opportunities. So this last slide is just our contact information. There's, as we said, a team here to help you. We all kind of have different areas that we can focus on. Of course, any of your course and degree planning questions will go to Sophie as the departmental advisor. Any incoming students can speak with Claire, and myself. I'm available to any science student to connect you with resources to help you in your courses. And as well, particularly for BPK students, I'm very partial to you because of my previous experience in the program. So feel free to reach out to me as well.
Can I just chime in? We were remiss. You have an extra advisor, actually an extra 2 advisor, because you are behavioral neuroscience, you have an even bigger support team. If you have questions about the psych side of the degree in behavioral neuroscience, there's a fantastic advisor in psychology. His name is Alan Yee. And also, I think they've gotten so big over in psychology, they have a second advisor now. Is it Emily, Aiden? Emily Chow, I believe. And so you could get either one of them. I think it's, Nicole, could you put their contact information in the chat down below, their link to them? And just the one thing that I wanted to add about some of the things that Aiden said earlier, you cannot combine any of our majors. So you cannot, or any of our majors and minors. So sometimes we get asked, can I do behavioral neuroscience major with a psych minor? Or can I do behavioral neuroscience with a kin minor? You cannot do that. You cannot combine our programs. So what happens is sometimes students will do the Bachelor of General Studies double minor program, and they will do a kin minor and they'll do a psych minor. They'll do a Bachelor of General, they'll do a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of General Science, double minor, kin minor, and a psych minor. Or for those students who may not like all the sciences, they might do a psych major and a kin minor. So lots and lots of possibilities, just you can't combine programs, majors and minors within our department. So that's it for me. I want to give lots of time for students to ask questions.
Yeah, we'll now open it up to your questions, anything that you have. A few have been coming in the chat that we've just been answering as we've gone along, but I'd now just like to open the floor. Oh, we have one already. This first question is, why is it that some courses don't offer tutorials or labs? The reason why I'm asking is because on my schedule, some courses don't show labs or tutorials. So every course is a little different. Some courses, while it is uncommon, there are some that are lecture only, some that will be lectures and tutorials or lectures and labs. Did I freeze there?
You're back now, Claire. We lost you for a few seconds.
I'm so sorry. My internet is melting along with the rest of me. So the question was about why some courses may not have tutorials or labs. Sophie, perhaps would you like to talk about the kind of components in the courses that students are taking for this fall?
So just to, Claire was correct, not all students, so BPK 142, for instance, has a lecture and a lab. But some of the science courses, like Chem 121, usually sometimes everything is combined into a course. Hopefully that answers that question for you. But one of the reasons is, let's say BPK 142, that will be a huge class. There will be 300 students of you, 300 of you in the lecture. And so to be able to give you a bit more one-on-one, your labs will have 20 students inside in the lab. And so you will have a graduate student who will be your TA, and you will be able to ask questions about some of the things you found particularly difficult. And so it's the same thing, whether it's a lab or a tutorial. Labs tend to be maybe give or take 20. Tutorials could be a little larger. They could be between 20 and 25. But all the courses are different. It just depends on what's the best way to offer the course content. Is it better suited? So some of the smaller courses, especially when you get to 3rd and 4th year, will be more like a seminar course, and they won't have a tutorial or a lab. So hopefully that gives you some idea.
This next question comes from Miriam, who asks, should we do a major first and then a minor? Perhaps I'll tackle this one because throughout your whole degree, it takes about 120 credits to finish. The content of a major is usually around half of that, but you spread it out over the entirety of your degree. And same with a minor. Minors are less than a major. They're fewer credits than a major, but usually students spread them out throughout their degree. So while it is certainly possible to finish degree requirements for a major and then put all your focus on a minor, it is much more common, and it would personally be my recommendation for courses for a minor you might be interested in to take them throughout your degree. Aiden or Sophie, any comment on that?
That's a good general answer. Sometimes students don't realize that they're interested in a minor till further on in their degree. They might have taken a course and they took a course to satisfy an elective or a breadth humanities or a breadth social sciences. And all of a sudden they decide, I really love this. Another way that students do minors is towards the end of their degrees, certain professional schools, UBCPT, for instance, looks at students' prerequisites and their last 30 upper division units. So let's say you decided to add an education minor pretty close to the end of your degree, and you're getting A minuses in all your BNU courses, but you're getting all A's in your education courses. You might want to leave the last 15 upper division. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because you're just entering your first term. So if you know right from the get-go that you do want to do a major and a minor, you can do exactly what Claire suggested, and it's a good idea to spread things out, especially if you're doing mostly science courses and you want to add courses that are a bit different to balance your load from term to term. But as I said, sometimes students end up adding a minor later on in their degree, and that's perfectly fine too. So what I'm trying to say is you've got a lot of flexibility, and that's a good thing, but sometimes it can lead to a bit of confusion. Reach out. If you've got questions, please reach out.
Thank you, Sophie. This next question is quite similar. Do we need to declare a minor? Yes, you do. It's nothing you needed to do during the application process, so you have not missed anything, I want to assure you. You declare minors by meeting with the departmental advisor for the minor that you're interested in. Some have very specific courses you need to take. I'm thinking of business, for example. Others are a bit more open-ended. They just want to see you take a few courses. So it does vary quite a bit. But if you reach out to the advisor for that program you're interested in minoring in, they'll be able to let you know what their specific requirements are.
So please, as advisors, we love to help you. My only caveat to what Claire just said, if you're interested in a forensic sciences minor, actually, I don't think they have a minor, but they have a forensic sciences certificate, go to the website. Type in forensic sciences and go to the website. If you're interested in a business minor, go to the business website, have a look. And yes, by all means, get all your questions together and reach out to the advisor, but use the resources that are available to you. It might answer some of your general questions and may lead to additional questions.
I will say, in my opinion, the easiest way to find everything on SFU's website, always with Google. The simplest way. Alrighty, this next question comes from Megan, and I think I'll direct it to Aiden, who asks, when should we get connected with mentors?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. And this is a good question, Megan. I just got an update from our our science engagement coordinator, Thomas, who's one of our colleagues. So BPK Peer Mentorship is accepting new mentees. If you go to the website, it does say it needs to be updated because it says that they're full or at capacity, but that just hasn't been updated. So they will be accepting new students to be connected with mentors. And as I mentioned, additionally, you can also join the science peer mentorship program, and you're free to join both of those. So if it's not updated yet, it will be very soon. You can always reach out to them via email as well to get an update. But yeah, definitely recommend it.
Thank you, Aiden. This next question comes from Melody, who asks, is it possible to do all of Psych 201W from the Surrey campus? Actually, don't know off the top of my head if Psych 201W is offered at both Surrey and Burnaby. But the easiest way to check is on your student center, where you can go through class search or browse catalog. When you see each course, it will tell you which campus or which campuses, if it's offered at multiple, it's being taught at. And so I don't know for Psych 201 off the top of my head, but it is definitely on your Student Center. This next question comes from Alex. Are all 100 courses grade 12 courses? No, not always. So sometimes the course numbers that are 100, I'm thinking specifically math 100, chemistry 100, physics 100. In a lot of cases, it's essentially the equivalent of the high.
It looks like, unfortunately, it looks like Claire has frozen. But yes, if you
100
don't
level
have,
course. Oh,
if you don't
did I
have
freeze
pre-calc-
again?
No,
Oh.
yes, you did, but now
I'm
you're
so
back.
sorry.
If you don't have pre-calc 12, you can do math 100, or if you did pre-calc 12, but you're not sure that you did all that well, you don't want to jump straight in, you can do a math preparedness test. That's just for yourself. It's on the math website. But so if you don't have pre-calc 12, you can do math 100. If you don't have physics 12, you can do physics 100. Chemistry is an outlier for some strange reason. If you don't have Chem 12, you need to do Chem 111. So they didn't use the normal convention for numbering their course. But we sent you some breadcrumbs to remember that document I sent you that had some sample suggested first year enrollment. On there, if you're missing any of the grade 12 sciences, it tells you what the equivalent university course is. And if you're missing physics 12, for instance, and you have to do physics 100, it'll count as a general elective for you. So it's not like you're having to do an extra course that won't count towards anything.
Thank you, Sophie. Sorry again about my internet. It's really melting down. And just to add to that, in some other departments, for example, almost everything in arts and social sciences, 100 levels have nothing to do with their grade 12 equivalents because there often isn't one. This next question is, where can we specifically find this recording on the BPK website? I believe it will live under the current students page, perhaps the advising page. Does that sound right, Sophie?
I'm not sure if we had it. Was it under the advising page? Nicole will post it. We will also, we should send it out via BPK, the BPK UGrad email list. Please, if I can just say, a lot of you have other email accounts. Do start referring to your SFU email account, or I think you can forward your SFU email account to your other email account. Your enrollment date will go there, important information from us. We try not to inundate you with emails, so a lot of stuff will be posted in the student digest. I can't remember, I don't know if Nicole can pipe in, if we had that under advising or if it was somewhere else on our website. Nicole, can you, it won't be there right away because obviously it has to be converted, et cetera, but Nicole will post it in the next few days. If Nicole can unmute herself, maybe she can just let us know where it's going to live, or put a link in the chat.
Great, thank you. This next question came in privately. I think we've already covered it, but just to reiterate, if I didn't take physics 12 in high school, do I need to take physics 100? Yes, physics 100 would be a perfect course to take if you didn't take physics 12 in high school. It will allow you to go on to those more advanced physics courses. This next question is from Kiana. When looking at courses, I saw that there are multiple listed and it says you can only choose a couple from the list. Well, you have to end up taking ones you didn't choose in the future anyways. I think that has to do with where it's like, oh, you need one of these physics, these maths, etc. Perhaps I will let Aiden or Sophie speak to that.
So if Claire is correct and she's understanding, and if we're understanding the question correctly, we have recommended courses. So we recommend Math 154 and Math 155, but you will sometimes see in brackets or in the calendar, it says one of, there will be other things listed. So you may see Math 150. If you're very strong in math and you decide you want to do Math 150, you can do Math 150 in lieu of 154. So you're doing Math 150 instead of, you're not doing it on top of. But if you're referring to the suggested first year enrollment, you will see courses that are term 1, term 2, 3, If you choose not to do Biology 101 in your first term, you will likely do it in your second term, or vice versa. If you do Biology 101 in your first term, you would probably do BPK 142 in your second term. Same thing with psychology. You could do Psych 101 or 102 in your first term, and then in your second term, you will do the other one that you didn't do in your first term. And just to go back to those students who don't have Physics 100, if you are missing a grade 12 course, you should try and get that slotted in your first or second term. At least do it in your third term in the summer, because everything builds on everything else. I know that I don't know how much Aidan covered sort of co-requisites and prerequisites. Something that is a prerequisite has to be done ahead of the course for which it's listed. A co-requisite can be done concurrently. So because Physics 100 is a prerequisite for Physics 101, you have got to get that covered early on in your degree. So I would recommend doing it in your first or second term, or at least in the summer term if you don't want to slot it in. Some people will say, I'm scared of physics. I didn't do well in Physics 11. I'm going to do it on its own in the summer. That's perfectly fine too.
Great, thank you. This next question comes from Radman, who asks, when can you join the co-op program? Is it after your second year? So students can begin to work after around the end of their first year. So I would say maybe partway through second year is pretty common for starting to work, but you can actually join the program in your first year. And the reason for that is that there is quite a long lead time between when you join the program, start going to information sessions, and start applying to jobs, doing interviews. It is a pretty long process. So you can join in your first year to start working as early as your second year. And we do recommend that students join the co-op program before the end of their second year, just because you want to make sure you have enough time to get some work terms in. This next question comes from Miriam, who asks, could we do a minor in something that is completely different than behavioral neuroscience? 100%. I have seen some wild combos in my day. One of my very good friends from undergrad was a BPK student in his major, and then a history minor. I've seen like dance minors, computing science minors.
Claire is frozen again, but just to add to that, if you're in behavioral neuroscience, we do have the odd student who's interested in maybe doing audiology or speech pathology at UBC. And so some students who may want to keep that option open will do a linguistics minor. So you could do a linguistics minor with your behavioral neuroscience major. What some other students do is if they're interested in counseling, they do an education minor. There is an education minor in, I think it's called educational counseling. So you can do things that are totally unrelated, or you can do something that is related because it's a good combination for a future professional program. So if you're interested in audiology, speech pathology, there are a couple of linguistics courses that you'll need to do. They're prerequisites. So you may want to do a minor in that. The other area is cognitive sciences. You know, maybe cognitive sciences is related to behavioral neuroscience if that's a combination that looks interesting to you. So it can be totally different, or it can be an area that is related in some way. Hopefully that answers your question. Poor Claire. She's like
my internet.
I just want to answer the second part of Miriam's question there, and how can we apply? Can we apply now? So different departments, it depends on what minor you're interested in, Miriam, and feel free to put it in the chat if you want. Best thing to do is to research the website of that department, because they will often have very explicit instructions on how to apply for their minor. Some of them, some departments, it's as simple as emailing the advisor to let them know that you're interested. Others are going to have some sort of internal transfer process, just like, you know, for behavioral neuroscience majors, you need to go through this competitive entry. So other programs might have that for their minor, but the best source for that information is to contact that department, or at least start with their website. Okay.
Great, thank you. This question came in privately, so I won't read the person's name, but they asked, how do I find my SFU email account? So you can log in at mail.sfu.ca. You use your computing ID to log in. That's the one you created in mid-June. It's usually a combination of your initials and some numbers. If you are having any trouble logging in, you can always contact IT services, or if you're not sure how to reach out to them, feel free to reach out to me and I will help you out there. Okay, another question that came in privately, are there any specific courses that I could take now towards a career in speech science, or is that under a completely different program? Or should be done during a later time? I think behavioral neuroscience definitely has a bit of what you want to see. Before I turn it over to Sophie, I'll also give shout outs to the linguistics department and the cognitive science department, but Sophie, take it away.
Yeah, so when you say speech science, I'm not aware of undergraduate programs in speech science. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. But as far as I know, most people who are interested in having a career usually end up doing speech pathology or audiology. And my understanding, those are graduate programs. They are offered at UBC. And if you go and have a look at the UBC website specifically for those programs, they do require, if not at least 3 years towards a degree, they may actually require a degree. And behavioral neuroscience, psychology, cog-sci, all those things that Claire mentioned are great, but they will require some linguistics courses. So either you don't have to complete a whole minor in linguistics, you could, but you have to make sure that the courses that they need as part of the admissions requirement to that program that you've completed as part of your degree, your undergraduate degree. I hope that's answered your question.
Thank you, Sophie. This next question, what is a good / suggested amount of courses to take per term? I believe a little earlier in the presentation, Sophie recommended perhaps starting with about 12 credits, which is 4 courses, maybe even 9 credits, 3 courses. Starting with 5 is usually not a recommendation. Yeah, anything to add?
Yeah, and just be careful. We say 4 courses, and because most courses at SFU are worth 3 units, so 3 times 4 is 12. But you will notice that actually the first year curriculum in sciences, not on the psych side, but on the science side, there are some courses that are 4 units, some are worth 2 units, some are worth 1 unit. So you could end up with either 11 units or you could be in 13 units, depending on what courses you combine. I say give or take 12 units is a good start for a first term. And I always mention, know what the drop deadline is. So if you're pretty confident, you can start off with a certain combination of courses, and then you're in week 2 or 3 and you're going, this is more work than I thought. You want to know, what is the deadline where I can actually go and drop a course? What are the repercussions? Is there a notation on my transcript? Am I going to get a refund of my tuition, a part refund? And so we can, I'm not sure if it was in some of the slides, but I think that Nicole can add a link. If you go to sfu.ca and you type in the search box, fall deadlines, it'll take you to the right page. And then in the spring term, you do the same thing. You go spring deadlines, summer deadlines, and it'll bring up a whole bunch of tabs. And one of them is to do with dropping courses and when you can do it till, and financial implications. If you do it later on in the term, the only way to do it is under extenuating circumstances, and it's on an appeal process. So it's better to get some sense of if you're in too many courses earlier on in the term.
Thank you, Sophie. This next question, where can we find information on student loans? A great resource is Financial Aid and Awards, FAA, and perhaps Aiden or Nicole can pop that link in the chat. Thank you, Aiden. I can see your thumbs up. So student loans are administered by the government, not by SFU, but we do have advisors who are able to help with all the paperwork. They see it all the time. They've been through the process quite a bit, so they'll be able to help in more detail.
And Nicole has already posted that link.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Nicole. She's so sweet. I don't scroll down. I stay on the question we're at, so I never am too sure. This next question, it comes from someone who asks, if they did well enough in the grade 12 version of a course, but they're a little apprehensive about going into the first year version. So their example is they did physics 12, but they didn't get an amazing grade. It's not their most comfortable area. Should they go right into physics 101 or take physics 100? Really varies for every person. I would say if you know that something is not your strength and having a little bit more established base knowledge would be helpful for you, then it sounds to me like 100 might be a good option, but it's going to be different for every student.
I just want to make a note for this student. If you do end up taking physics 100, those credits are not going to waste, right? So you can use those towards your degree. As we mentioned before, you do need electives for your degree. So physics 100, for example, could be an elective course for you, and you're going to use that towards your degree. So we do recommend if you feel you need some extra preparation for whether it's physics or math. Some students will take math 100 before taking Calc 1, because Calc 1 is typically a very difficult course for science students. And doing math 100 is a really great way to prepare, and better than doing poorly in Calc 1 when you're not fully prepared and having to repeat it, right? So it's a much better scenario to do the 100 course before the actual one. So.
Thank you, Aidan. We've got one last question. That's perfect timing. We're just in our last minute here. This question comes from Alex, who asks, is it better to try 4 courses and then drop one if it's too much, or to do 3 and enroll in another if it's not enough? You can't enroll in courses really too far into the term. Ideally, by the end of the first, latest second week is when you can be adding courses. So that's just something to keep in mind. And also, if you drop a 4th course, even if you can drop it at a point where it won't impact your transcript, depending on when you drop it, you might still be paying some or all of that tuition. So rather than plan to add one or drop one, as best as you can, try to plan for the number that is going to be right for you. But between the two, it's a little easier to drop than add, but best to go in with the number that you need, I would say. Aidan and Sophie, any parting words of wisdom for our students in the room?
I'll just say thank you for being here. It's really great to see you all excited about your studies at SFU. We really look forward to seeing you. And we hopefully will see some, if not all of you, on campus as things start to open up. Do come and look for us. Claire, myself, and one of our colleagues, Thomas, will have a new home. We'll have a science center, which all science students are welcome to visit us at. So look out for news on that. And of course, we just wish you all the best this summer, and take it easy until September, when you'll be very busy, I'm sure, with courses.
So the last, I just wanted to say, and in relation to that last question, if you end up enrolling in 9 units or something like that, or some weird combination, you end up in 10 or whatever it is, if all of a sudden you're thinking, I can handle this, I should have taken an extra course, use that time to do some volunteer work, participate in a club on campus. Those things, you may think, oh, well, it's not part of my academics, but as Aidan said earlier, when you're applying for professional schools later on, first of all, it makes your time at SFU so much better if you're participating in things, but you can volunteer on campus, you can volunteer in your home community. Just use your time. If you should have taken an extra course and you didn't, that's okay. And as I said, you can make up a couple of courses in the summer term. So it's much harder the other way around when you started in too many courses and you're really, really struggling and you're thinking, you're starting to get down on yourself. Please don't get down on yourself. Reach out to us. It's only 1 term in a 4-year degree. But yeah, I think it's much better to be in, you're all gonna, maybe we're too worried. Maybe you're all gonna do great. And we've sort of got a lot of experience, and we've seen some students, not do so well in their first term, and they do struggle sometimes after that. Not struggle, they can do well in the future, but they struggle with their self-esteem. And so if fill your time with some other really useful things. And if you're not sure what those things are, reach out to us and we can recommend some great things happening on campus. That's it from me. Very happy to have you guys here. And again, I hope we can see some of you face to face, if not in the fall, in the spring term.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again so much. We are at time, so we'll end it here. Feel free to follow up with any of us for any other questions, and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe out there, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone.